My name is Jack Klein, and I'm the founder of New York Lab. So, New York Lab is what I would phrase as like a coalition of scientists and researchers and policymakers all working toward cleaner, cooler, and healthier subway stations in New York City. And not even just subway stations, but kind of our public infrastructure and public spaces in general. I moved in March 2024, so like last summer was my first summer here. So I was commuting from Ridgewood, Queens to Hell's Kitchen every day for work, and I was really just taken aback by how insanely miserable it was below ground. One day I had an idea to buy a digital thermometer gun that you'd see during COVID and just like sort of pointed at surfaces in 14th Street Union Square because that was my transfer station. And then the videos, I only posted a couple last summer on TikTok, which I'm always, hesitant to even say because I can't believe I live in this world now where I'm posting on TikTok. But those blew up, and it was just a bunch of like people living in New York, like hundreds and hundreds of comments telling me like go to 34th Street Herald Square, go to 181st elevator, like it's the hottest place ever. Like people have a very strong connection to their station, and that kind of culminated in me like installing a sensor network throughout some of the busiest subway stations in Manhattan for the summer to collect the first long-term environmental data set underground. And kind of the more creative side and this the more pragmatic side of collecting the data has provided me a foundation to connect with lots of people in the policy and environmental and public health space in New York. Yeah, so a lot of what I'm focused on is heat index, which is the feels like temperature. For example, in 14th Street Union Square, which is, at least as of 2 years ago, it's the fourth busiest subway station in the whole system out of like 470. Like the 456 platform can regularly reach like 120 degrees. And so for maybe me and you, or for me at least, who's like able-bodied, it just kind of sucks and it feels uncomfortable. But for certain populations like the elderly, people with disabilities, pregnant women, people on antidepressants or other medications that make them more vulnerable to heat-related illness, like this is more than an inconvenience. It's like a serious public health issue. The MTA is also partially concerned about this because it can do a lot of damage to equipment. So like 99, I think, percent of train cars now are air conditioned, but that hot air has to go somewhere. So when the train cars pull into the station, it expels all the hot air onto the platform. Like you can feel that when a train pulls up in the summer, it's like an inferno of deathly hot air getting blown into your face. And then also the brakes of the trains, it's like steel on the steel rail that creates a lot of friction and thermal energy, pushing a lot of hot air into the stations. Also, a lot of these stations were built, for example, Union Square, 14th Street, was built in like 1904. They weren't built for like modern day climate problems in mind. There's very little ventilation going on. There's fans in these stations, but it feels like it's just pushing hot air around. I saw some videos of somewhere in London about it being a heat sink as well, and like sort of, I guess, this phenomenon of heat getting trapped inside the station and like just continuing to heat up without any escape. So that's one city that I think is comparable. But I think we look at a lot of stations that are cities that are doing it right, like China or other countries in Southeast Asia, screen doors that close on both sides that like encapsulate the station. Because of that, you can have climate controlled rooms within the station. And I mean, these are all built they're much more modern, but I think there's examples that we can look at of like places that are doing it right. And then how can we get to that in New York City? I mean, so a lot of what I think about is any widespread solution will take decades probably to implement and lots of money and bureaucracy. And MTA is funded by the state. So, you have to get money from Albany to fix this. And it seems like MTA is always out of money. So I'm even thinking like shorter term interventions around, can we get like water vending machines underground or more benches? Because it seems like there's really not that many places to even sit for these groups that are more vulnerable, or even better placed fans. Like I see a lot of these fans are like on the ceiling and it's like just pushing hot air down on the platform. It's like, okay, well, can they be on the sides or, somewhere better? Or, I think about like, why can we put plants in stations? Like I was just talking about that with someone today. Maybe it's a bit far out, but I think there's ways to think more creatively. Yeah, people can follow my research I post on social media at newyorklab.co.co. Kind of give a lot of updates on like Instagram stories because while there may not be like massive things happening every day, I'm having a lot of conversations with people and I like to post just like intermediary updates so people can follow along because there's a lot of people that follow me that like are also curious about this and involved and want to volunteer and stuff like that. So try to keep people updated that way.